Excellent. This is a couple of this in.
Richard's, I think.
Oh, is it?
One that says headphone.
Those tablets, the things working there.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up some more painkillers in a moment.
We'll work on that lunchtime.
Do you know?
You can take that
No
out.
shortage.
You can take that out of that knee, mate. I'll pay you.
Yeah, we'll work on it
But you
lunchtime
can
if
take
you want.
some of it.
Yeah, I'm going to charge you.
But the only thing is, it's
Yeah.
called tramadol now, so it might not be your technique. It could be his joke to the eyeballs.
That's instantly good.
Well, who will know? Does it matter?
It doesn't
He'll
matter.
know.
Yeah, well, I know.
You know when he doesn't come back the next day with a trouble.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's worth a try.
Well,
It is worth a
it's
try.
self-inflicted, it's holidays and too many beers and all the rest of it.
but is that just a belief?
No, it's true.
There's supposed to be no evidence to support that, but yeah, who knows? Obviously my belief, isn't it? Because I've got it at the moment, so.
Yeah, it literally takes 5 minutes.
Alright.
It's really fast.
No, it's all paid to go.
Oh, yeah, you know. Alex,
Yeah, it's pretty good.
what was that?
We need to put a date out for that.
Those compliments.
Yeah.
Well, actually, yes, then. Do you have any?
That'll see.
Alright.
My reputation precedes me now.
All right.
Oh.
Yes, I was saying.
There's no celery involved, is there? Or anything?
No, we only use the mackerel. No, sorry.
We're having it done.
The question is, would you charge a pound extra for buying the mackerel and celery?
No, I'll be honest, I'll put that hard and I'll include that in the price.
I won't be planning on having mackerel salad for dinner.
Okay, I'm going to start in a second. We're going to break for lunch at 1 o'clock. Then, a quick show of hands, who's got cars outside? Well, like 4 of you. Well, if we can all kind of like give other people lifts, I'll go in one of the cars, Stu will go in the other, and then that way at least 2 of the cars will exactly where they're going, and then number 3 will just have to follow us. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes down the road there, but it's carvery, there's other food available, there's also a bar for those for drink of any description. And yeah, this will all kind of be there. That'll give you a kick up the arse and the signal and go, we're going back, it's the afternoon. Right, continuing on with the questionnaires. Yeah, we've done medication. No, is there a history of this problem within your direct family? Semi-irrelevant really, that person's definitely ready for change, but within themselves they could feel that might have been used by themselves as an internal justification for allowing it to continue. Oh, it's okay, because, you know, Mum suffered with that for years, or Dad had that issue, or whatnot. So it's something to be aware of. Have you tried any other alternative therapies to cure this problem before? And if so, what? If they got down here, they tried TFT, EFT, let's say. It's pretty much a clue, but it's probably a good idea not to, at any point during the session, get them tapping places, because if they tried it before and it didn't work, why should they believe that that's going to work for them now? So the real reason for having asked that is that if need be, you can tweak what you do so that what you do is definitely different than anything they've had before, so that logically, because it's different, they can entertain the possibility of having a different end result, namely of it working this time, rather than it being, yeah, some purpose, oh, it's fine, yeah, but clearly they weren't trained up properly in EFT. They didn't know about the paradigm matrix, when you tap 27 times on the right ear, or you say, so it'll be fine with it. Bullshit, the person's already going to have some sort of negative, connection. So that's what that question's really about. Have you got any questions for me? Self-explanatory. You deal with them based on whatever the questions are. Always in the manner or where your answer suggests, implies and confirms that you've encountered this a million times before and that it's perfectly natural and this has got nothing to do with what's going on and that it'll be fine and it'll still work. That's about what you're projecting. And then if you use the other one, I don't need to dwell on it too much. I think it's self-explanatory when we went along, we were getting negatives and positives, the reason being so that we can anchor pain and pleasure, or positive, negative, or trap, freedom, whatever label you want to give it, one extreme or the other. And any of them that need any particular reference? Not really, just about getting some personal information from them so that at the relevant time during the session, if you so choose, you can feed in this bit of personal stuff about them that makes it feel as though you've tailored this specifically to them, so it makes them feel special. And it goes back to that whole thing about them feeling loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished and valued. So, with all of that in mind, what do I get them to do during the session? What happens when they come in through that door? First thing is, they pay the rest of the money in cash, or card, whatever. They pay the rest of the money at the start. And then I always use the line, nobody likes talking about money, but you know when you go and see a gypsy fortune teller, they say, cost my pound with silver. Well, let's get the business out of the way, that's another 250 quid, please. Get the money up front, because that's like another commitment. You've had half up front, but then you get the balance of it. I've got an increasing number of students who tell me they take full money up front now. It works for them. I think taking 50% if you're charging enough of the commitment, because then it's a reminder again when they come and have to pay the second part, rather than hopefully will have been at least a 28-day time distance between them booking and coming, and depending on what it is, you might have set them exercises during that month period. You can't really do this with 4 years, but with smoking you can set them the exercise of every time they go and buy a packet of cigarettes, they have to buy a different brand. And where they would normally smoke one cigarette, when they smoke one, they're to rip one up and throw it in the bin. So they will get through those 20 cigarettes in the space of having 10. The reason for this is to get over the fact it's now become law in England that they can't sell cigarettes in packs of 10, and you want them to have to go back and buy some more cigarettes because you tell them not to buy more than 1 pack at a time. Not to go and buy any more until they've smoked and ripped up the last one. Then they have to physically make an effort to go and buy some more. But you've taught them to buy a different brand. And if they do this over a period of 28 days, they'll go through all the brands, probably twice, depending on how much they smoke. They will knacker up their throat. They will wake up in the morning coughing all amounts of shit up that they weren't doing because of a mixture of different flipping. And they'll pretty much cause themselves enough pain that they will have broken the habit. They will no longer be smoking unconsciously or automatically. They'll have already reprogrammed themselves out of that because they're having to think about it more and more by buying a different brand, by having to go and buy a new pack rather than the second pack. They will have cut down by the time they come to you. Without fail, they will have cut down. They may not even show up. I've had an increasing number of people that have paid the money up front, and it's come to the day I've been here and they've just not shown up. So I've contacted them, obviously, because A, I want to know they're alive, B, I want to know out of curiosity why they haven't come, and C, they owe me 250 quid. Because, you know, they entered a contract. And invariably, they've all, by one person, got back to me and paid the rest of the money. And when asked why they didn't come, they said, well, I didn't feel the need to, I've already stopped. Well, if in their head, but they've still gone through an important senior and interesting process. They've still taken instructions from the perceived expert authority figure therapist. So they're still in their own head, arguably, have got that ability to be able to say to people, the therapist helped me, made me do this. That's why I wasn't able to do it sooner. So they've still removed all that self-blame, shame, guilt, regret, frustration, anger, resentment. And they can get on with things. That happens an increasing number of times. With weight management clients, asking them what it is, because people generally know what they're, oh, I eat too much chocolate, I eat too much of that. Give them the task of, well, basically, the first thing to do is to tell them, I always send them, for weight management, I send them an email with a questionnaire that tells them between booking and coming to see me, they are to follow the golden rules of eating. Namely, diets don't work. Eating in the correct manner does, sadly. Most people have they watch telly or they're doing stuff, and so they don't know when they're full. They eat past that point. So step one is eat. When you feel hungry, eat. And eat what you actually fancy and want. But do it fully consciously. So if it's on a plate, knife and fork, cut a bit off, put it in the mouth, put the knife and fork down, chew the food at least 10 to 15 times before you swallow it. Then pick up the knife and fork again, get another bit. If it was crisps, pick up the bag, remove a couple of crisps, place into mouth, put back down on table. Chew them 10 to 15 times, then pick the bag up again. So you're making a change, you're doing something different, you haven't have to think about it differently. This also then allows your body time to signal you that, you know what, I feel like I don't feel hungry anymore. And give yourself permission to stop when you feel you don't need any more. The number of people who've told me over the years, but my mum and my gran, they used to say you can't leave the table until your plate's clear. You know, to people in third world countries that love that food, they fucking wouldn't by the time you parcelled it up and sent it. Would they? It'd be rotting. So don't be stuck in the old patterns and say, you've got to think about yourself. Right, if your mum wants to believe that, your gran, fine, but you know what? It's not your mum and your gran's weight you're worried about, it's your own type thing. And if you get them doing that, they will start thinking about things differently before they even get to you. They will be starting to break the automatic reactions they've been having. They'll start to undo the habits, if you like. People just get, everything's a habit. Even phobia is a habit. It becomes habitual to react in a certain manner. And we get confirmation by, what you stared at, somebody goes, oh, what's up, what's up? Suddenly, that what's up is somebody caring about you. So, it becomes habitual to want to feel that good. So, we've got to break that cycle. That's what it's all about, breaking that, getting a wedge in. Yeah, those are just examples for weight management, smoking, other things. Make something up. Literally, make something up. Doesn't matter what the issue is, anxiety, panic attacks. Say to them, look, I'm not telling you that before you come to see me. That, and if I'm on the phone, I'm still nod my head, it's an automatic thing, because if you stand up, it's like in sales, they say, if you stand up when you're on the phone, you'll sound more confident when you're on the phone. So, you know, smile when you're on the phone, it affects your voice, so I'll be there on the phone going, so yeah, I'm not telling you that before you come to see me that your panic attacks are going to stop completely. But many people do say to me that using the technique I'm about to share with you, that those feelings reduce so dramatically that they feel it's amazing the changes that can happen before you even see me in 4 weeks' time. Now, there's pauses there, they're not for dramatic effect in this room, it's arguably what NLP would class or talk about, or in Ericksonian hypnosis to talk about, it would be classed as embedded commands. Because by pausing, so I'm not telling you that panic attacks will be gone completely by the time you come. It's a weird way of saying a sentence, but it leaves it in the mind. You can take that as a sentence of its own. That the panic attacks will be gone completely before you come. But also, we know that for some people that isn't going to be the case because they've got too much secondary gain of attention. So hence, they can go back, well, they told us, I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is, so whatever happens feels right and doesn't seem like any form of failure. So, I'm not saying to you that the panic attacks will stop completely before you come. It's just that with the technique I'm about to share with you, many people have said that by the time they come and see me in person for the session, that those feelings they once had in the past have so dramatically dropped. They found it really amazing that they really can see those changes that can happen right now. Arguably, it's the embedded command that if you believe that all that stuff has some kind of effect, then arguably it can do. But let's give them some important seeming ritualistic process to do. And you point out to them that, you know, you're really good, you know what panic attack feels like. And I bet you actually know the warning signs. You know it's going to happen, don't you? Yeah, because you're really good at this. You don't tell them it's because they've rehearsed it and you're an attention-seeking fuckhead. But ultimately it is. But you know, you're really good at this, and because of that, you'll know when the chances are it's likely to happen. So that's the moment you must use this technique. You understand? Yeah? Good, fantastic. So what you need to do when that happens is, obviously if you can't do this when you're driving, you'd have to pull over, otherwise you're going to crash the car, because you need to use your hands. But an element of safety and common sense is involved. What you're going to do is you're going to take your right hand, you're going to take your top two fingers, and you're just going to tap the centre of your left palm 1, 2, 3 times. And as you do in your head, I want you to say to yourself, you don't need to do it out loud, otherwise people will look at you and think you're strange, but you can do it just inside your head and you go, calm, relax, confident, calm, relax, confidence, calm, relax, confident, 3 times. And just notice how much better that feels. And how each time that you have to use that technique before you come and see me in person, how each and every time you use it, it just becomes far more effective for you. Any important seeming ritualistic process that means you have to think about doing a physical action is automatically, therefore, taking up some conscious thought. Thus, it's distracting your conscious mind from its usual pattern of rehearsed, habitual, automatic behaviour of the way it would normally react in this scenario to a panic attack, or anxiety attack, or whatever, or stress. So it's not rocket science that if you're doing something differently, it might alter slightly the way you feel. And because you pre-warned them of that, then they rationalise it as it's because of this technique. And you know what, I'll use it next time, because apparently every time I use it, the more positive it will. So it can, as long as they actually do it, help them before they even get to you, which is building up the belief levels before they even get to you. And if it doesn't help them to a massive degree, it doesn't matter, because they consciously perceived it as though you taught them, well, it's not like it's going to wipe it out. So they can't look at it and go, well, it failed. Because any change is a change, which they can rationalise as being something different. And once they buy into the process that you said do something, they do it, and something different occurs, then logically that can continue when they're sat in the room with you, and whatever you tell them to do or feel or think or whatever, logically, if they do it, and why wouldn't they when they pay 250 or 500 quid and actually filled in the questionnaire and all that, there is a logical conclusion. It's going to work for them. If you're fully confident in the way you project that to them. So now it's about the charade of what happens inside the consultant. Because obviously you're not going to get them to come in. It's very rare that you're going to turn around to them and go, look, you're just an attention-seeking fucker. Very rare. It has happened. Rather use that provocative approach, but very, 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 very rare. And probably only if they put down like we talked about. So I need to fill this hour to an hour and 15 minutes of time. And in truth, my sessions last between an hour to an hour and 15. they're advertised as being an hour. But I always say leave yourself at least an hour and a half. So you're available. It's structured so that it will last generally the best part of an hour and 15 minutes, so that when they look at their watch, they realise they've been with you for longer than the hour you promised them. So they feel like you weren't trying to keep them out of the consulting rooms. They feel loved, wanted, and all the things we talked about. Far better to do that than telling them it's a 75-minute session. Tell them it's 60 minutes and it looks like you're giving them extra time for free and you're caring and all this, that, the other. To fill up an hour and 15 minutes is incredibly difficult when you come to the realisation that what we do is all bullshit. Because when you realise that, part of your mind, as it did to me years ago, goes, what's the fucking point? You may as well have to just do this winky wanky technique for 5 minutes. God's done if they believe it. And you know what, in the majority of cases it would be done. But the problem is, then I think there's a situation where there's more chance of it then becoming undone after the event. Because if they start telling other people within 5 minutes I felt this way, people are going to have more scepticism about that and make them start questioning things more. Whereas if they say, well, I was supposed to be there an hour, actually I was there an hour and 15 minutes. Ooh, you know. It justifies it more, it makes it seem more real, because people are used to booking experts, consultants, a medical consultant charges by the hour or part thereof. Solicitors charge by the hour or part thereof. It's an ingrained thing in society, certainly where we are in England. So we're doing the same thing, we're charging them for an hour of our time. There's a almost subliminal underlying suggestion and message there, especially if you're charging a sizable fee. And the importance of I go back to what happens in the consulting room, because before we actually do the treatment stuff, there's lots of things going on in the consulting room. Even when I hire here, when I show up, first thing that happens is at least half a dozen diplomas get hung on the wall or put up in frames on the table, so it looks like it's my office. And these are impressive looking diplomas. They've got, they've got flipping crests on them, and they've got some here, some random ones, but you've got your obligatory winky wanky lettering and logos on and things that they would expect to see, or like the parent crest. But when you put them in a nice $2.99 at Wilkinson's, $3.99 a life, the really big one. They do want a lovely thick wooden frame like that. The bigger the frame, the more expensive the lawyer is. That's an old saying. And it's true, if you go in a lawyer or solicitor's office, trust me, they've always got chunky consultants. The higher up they are, the bigger the frame is, generally speaking. And there's a reason for that. It's because it's a non-verbal, powerful suggestion. You've attached importance to this, so you obviously must have done loads of study for it. So therefore you must be really good at it. That's why, it's all non-verbal, but it all helps create the right environment, as do the, dozen thick books on psychology and this, that, the other that you can see the spines on. You've never fucking read. But they assume you have, otherwise why would you have them on a shelf? It's obviously you choose to do what you want yourself, whatever your ethical, moral boundaries are. But I believe that as long as it's legal and lawful, and it's with the positive intent of helping the client get the result that they require in the fastest possible period of time, in my world, that's ethical and moral, as long as it's legal, lawful and safe. So, when I come and hire a room here or anywhere, the heating goes up full whack. I want it so ridiculously warm that when the lights are switched off, the blinds are drawn, and there's only a little lamp on, so it's just dim, the most likely thing that's going to happen when they end up in a reclining, laid down position is that they're going to go to I mean snowy sleep. I don't mean some fictional bullshit level of trance doesn't fucking exist, hypnotic state. I mean snowy sleep. If at the end of the session I have to clap my hands so loud that they just go, woo, 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 well, I think I fell asleep. Excellent. Because my instant reaction will be, it wasn't normal sleep, it was hypnotic sleep, but that's good. I'm glad that you did, you feel that way, because that tells me that the work we've done today together will be 1,000,000% successful for you. And in that moment of rationalisation, I go, hypnotists, yeah, we want people to sleep. Fucking hell, they're hypnotised. They've got genuine proof, they felt it. What can they argue? And if you believe the studies, there's these studies that say that people can take in at an unconscious level what you're saying to them while they're asleep anyway. So the suggestions you're going to give them are fine, they should go in. But even if they didn't, just them thinking they've been hypnotised, the moment they believe that, the fact that they paid money to be hypnotised, and they found that magical state, they must have done, that's why they felt like they'd been asleep when they woke up, then to themselves they say, this has worked. And the moment the client starts saying to themselves it's worked, they've allowed themselves to leave behind all that self-blame, shame, guilt, regret, frustration, anger, resentment. Job done. It's now about not so much compounding that, it's more about, it's now compounding it positively, it's more about making sure it doesn't come under. During that pivotal next few weeks where the family and friends will be going, oh, wow, it's great you made these changes, but why didn't you do it sooner? Well, they're going through that little bit of stress of explaining again and again, I needed a therapist, but it's great now, and the justification period, we need to be topping it up. And that's why every client at the end of the session is given an audio compact disc. And this audio compact disc they're told to listen to once every day for the next 28 days. So it almost brainwashes them. Although there is some kind of justification for this. Annual Koo, who's famously known for the saying, every day in every way I'm getting better and better, told people to say that 3 times to themselves in the morning, just after they awoke, when they were suggestible, 3 times during the day, and then 3 times at night, just before they went to sleep. The power of 3. Conscious, critical factor, subconscious, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. You look through life, there's all things in 3s. It's got a power and a connection, or a perceived one anyway. If it's perceived, then it can play on people's beliefs. But it's conditioning as well, doing it 3 times a day. It's an important CD ritualistic process. So that's what the CD's going to do for them at night time. And I always say to them, look, I understand we've got busy lifestyles and all this, that, the other, and where you're going to find the time. So what you want to be doing, I'm giving you a physical CD, you can use that if you want, but also I will email you an audio MP3 or a link to download it. So you can put that on your phone or your iPad or whatever. And what I suggest you do, when I send them a link, they're on eBay, if you just type in pillow speakers, you can get pillows that have got a built-in speaker, okay? So they can have this plugged in, and you tell them, when you go to bed, put the CD on low, so he's barely consciously aware, and just go to sleep listening to it. So you're not having to make any massive effort in your daily life to listen to it. But the key is, just so long as you listen to it every night for the next 28 days, these things will be positively, permanently welded, locked, glued, cemented in place in your personal laptop computer so that you know everything's right for you. Think of the CD or the audio recording kind of like topping up your antivirus software on your computer. You're doing your daily update at night, but it's great because you've got to sleep, you wake up, job done. And that's how I get around the obstruction. I haven't got time to, because people lead busy lives, but we want them to make it as easy for them as possible to carry on. Because arguably, it will be brainwashing them positively because what they're going to be listening to is so jam-packed with positive suggestions and metaphors and imagery and whatnot that you can't really do anything else. But before we get to giving them the CD, before we get to clapping our hands, waking them up because the room's been so warm, I mean really warm, you can use, I forgot what it's called because Joe always sets it up for me. I forgot which essential oil it is. She books in, what,
No,
I think it is like, is it like,
no,
yeah. Well, she always has it set up for me on one of the so I have that going as well. The blinds get shut, the lights go off, so you've got the stereotypical lamp on the desk, you know. So you've got a bit of light here. There's a reason for having a bit of light towards yourself. It's that if you want to be lazy, you can move the script. Oh no! Script, no sis! We shouldn't use scripts. If you're any good as a therapist, you're making up as you go along. Fact. That's the biggest pile of bullshit I've ever heard. My view on that is this. Yes, I'm more than capable of making it up as I go along. And indeed, if I randomly got stopped on the street by a TV crew, and God knows why, but somebody there and then I needed to do a therapy session, I'd make it up as I go along. I have the confidence to do it, I'm not going to carry it off. But if someone's coming to me one-to-one, they are getting word for word, with the exception of their name being slotted in, with the exception of some stuff off their questionnaire that's personal relevant to them being slotted in, but the majority of it will be 100% identical to what the last client. Because I put together a script that I call complete mind therapy, that if I seem a little bit smug at it, it's fucking good. That means I don't have to fuck around. Because if I backtrack slightly, for those who don't know this part, when I was 14, in the Exchange of Mark magazine, there was a blue section in it. There still is, but it's much thinner now. Business opportunities. And I responded to this advert. The Association of Professional Hypnotherapists and Parapsychologists, as it was at the time. It was only when I was so impressed by the company that I bought it that I renamed it the Association of Professional Hypnotherapists and Psychotherapists, which was later nicked by somebody else. But anyway, we won't dwell on that. Yeah. Actually, his second name is an anagram of twats. If you rearrange it, that spells his second name. Yeah, strange coincidence. But anyway, I got this, and what I got for my £125 in 1989 was it was about a 79-page A4 manual. If you actually go into bootcamp members area, there's a section that says original APHP course. And the 78-page manual's in there because it's not a joke. I was so impressed by the company that I bought it several years later. And I also got three 1-hour audio cassettes. One was on stage hypnosis, and the other two were on. One was fully on therapy, and the other one was a bit on therapy, but partly on how to get clients. So I read the 78-page manual. I listened to the audio tapes. I then took the exam that came in the same envelope, and I did actually do the answers from memory, but it would have been convenient that I had the book there to copy them from if I was chosen. Sent it back. A couple of weeks later, I get my diploma through. That's it. I'm 14, I'm a diploma bearing, certified hypnotherapist. Now, admittedly, I lied. I said I was 18 in the application form. I'm not daft. I figured 14 might have credibility. And basically what this told you to do, it gave you a script for hypnotising people, it gave you a script for deepening the trance, it then gave you various scripts, one for smoking, one for weight, one for nail biting, there was numerous different scripts. And then there was one for waking them up and telling them they'll listen to the audio cassette you give them. And it basically said, tell them to sit down, or lie down, close their eyes, and then take out your script and start reading. And obviously in the middle, slot in the one that's relevant to what issue they come with. And then just before you get to the end of the wakening up script, hide the scripts, so they don't know that you've been reading them, get them to open their eyes, job done, give them the audio cassette you're recording, tell them to listen to it every day for the next 28 days, job's a good one. Well, at that time, I hadn't been tainted by people trying to tell me that you can't possibly become a hypnotherapist that easily. So I went and did it. I had no reason to think any different. I went to my local newspaper, I walked in, I said, I passed this exam, look, I've got my diploma. And they took a photograph of me holding it all like this, they put it in the paper. I said, I tell you what, I'm going to offer the first 20 readers that contact me a free session, because just to celebrate. And the article went in that Friday in the Rochdale Express, and the phone was ringing off the hook. And I But he did tell me, this is one thing I agreed on, originally he said see them for, 2 or 3 sessions. Now that was, I now know, purely about making money. There was no need to be seeing them for 2 or 3 sessions, as I found out over the years. But I said to him, yeah, you can claim your free session. But how it works is you have to come and see me 2 or 3 times or so. I'm even going to save you money on the other 2 sessions. Well, half price, you pay for them 2, the third one will be free. So I was getting money out of them straight away. I had the nails, so that's because I was brought up on the circus and I've been doing shows. I had a bit of an unconventional upbringing. I went and I'd go and I'd tell them to close their eyes, and I very quickly came up with this phrase, and I thought, what if they open their eyes and see me reading the script? So because I come from a magical background, and by magical I don't mean devil worshipping Elsa Crowley, although I have studied all that stuff because the ritual that's involved in that, the metaphor, that's all it is suggestion, is very relevant to what we do as therapists. But by magic I mean more, Debbie! Paul Daniel's fine. Being able to spend ridiculous amounts of hours in your bedroom for no logical good reason when you're young, and rather than having a wank of the Grattan's catalogue, learning to do ridiculously pointless things like that. It's true, because the way, it's, where other people were out breaking windows with stones, I was sat at home doing rubbish like that, and for no apparently good reason, spending hours so I could show both sides of my hands and then pull a card out the air. Anyway, the point is, I came from a background of deception and trickery. I think there's a trick to everything. And there's a psychology to magic as well. Sometimes, most of the time, it's about convincing people something's happened that hasn't, or convincing them something hasn't happened that has. But in any event, there's a deception. And I thought, right, let's use linguistics here. So I figured they're paying me money, they want this to work for them. If I put them in, I've since found out NLP gives it a wanky title, you put them in a bind, or in a situation where they have to do what you said. So I say to them, close your eyes, and now, just so long as you keep your eyes tightly closed at all times, unless I say otherwise, then this will prove to be 100% successful for you. Decided, I've said if you open your eyes, it ain't gonna fucking work, and it's all your fault. Onus on them. Guess what? When people are paying a few £100, they keep their eyes closed. They don't see you reading the script. So that overcame a psychological problem one I had in my head of what if they open their eyes, and came up with that phraseology, and sure enough, I knew their eyes would be closed and I could get the script out and then put the script away just before I got to like the count of 7, but I'm waking people up, I count from 1 up to 10. So when I got to about 7, I thought, you know what, I can remember what to say for 8, 9 and 10. And I put it away so that when they open their eyes, no script. So as far as they're concerned, it's come out of my head, and this wonderful expert who knew what they're doing, not only did they do a session, but they involved the person's name and mentioned things that were on the questionnaire and made it feel personal and special to them. All of these things compound this experience for them. So, I then just read the script, woke them up, and that's what I did for a good couple of years. Hundreds, if not probably thousands of clients. But back then, I was good at marketing. And admittedly, back then I was only charging like 40 quid a session. Most therapists in the time were charging between 25 to 35. I was charging 35 to 40. But I knew from the magic arena that if you charge more for your magic shows, you were perceived by the venues as being better. Wasn't necessarily the case. Believe me, some of the dearest magicians out there are fucking terrible. But they get bugged because people perceive them. So I started off doing that, and it worked ultimately. I ended up on the radio within a few weeks. They put me on the spot, and they got a listener who said they were half-hearted about whether they wanted to stop smoking. So really now, years on, I go, no, I'm not touching the bargeboard, but I was young, cocky, and then this 78-page manual said it would work. So why shouldn't it? And it did, and I got more publicity, and I learned that marketing largely the key. But it didn't work all the time. Now, I realised this had to be for one of a couple of reasons. Either A, it just doesn't work all the time with all of the people. Or B, I was doing something wrong, or C, the clients were doing something wrong, or D, bits of all of them. And upon examination and looking, taking a step back, it was bits of all of them. Which is where I ended up bringing in the questionnaire, so that they were doing stuff beforehand. Which is where I then brought in at the start of the session, the moment they arrived, I get them to do something physically, which I'll demonstrate very shortly, that when they have that physical, physiological, genuine reality happen to them there and then in that space of time, their only logical conclusion to rationalise to themselves is, well, if that's possible that quickly, what's going to happen in the next 60 minutes? If that can genuinely happen, well, what could happen? It's opening that wedge. Arguably, it's bypassing the critical faculty. But it's giving them genuine, tangible, physical, physiological, undeniable, unquestionable evidence that you as the hypnotist have suggested something, they imagine it, and it's become reality. And once they've had proof that you say something, they imagine it, it becomes reality, resistance is gone. That they're open to suggestion. Why shouldn't what else you say that they imagine become reality? And once they're in that state of mind, you've got them. That's where you want them. So I do a couple of physical things at the start, which I'll come to in a minute, and then I get them to lie down. Here it's like for sun managers for their comfort, or therapy, massage type couches. If I could be asked, and if I'm giving sometimes I say do what I advise, not what I do myself, I'm a lazy bugger. But in an ideal world, you want to spend about 150 quid at IKEA, and you want the black leather reclining chair, because what people have seen in films is the stereotype that they expect, and the more you can fit the stereotypes, the better. Which, going off on one, reminds me, you know, quite often therapists get asked by clients, oh, you're not going to make me run around like a chicken or do anything daft, are you? I'm not Paul McKenna. The worst thing you can possibly say to them is, no, hypnotherapy is nothing like that, which is what most hypnotherapy training will teach you to do. Because the moment you tell them it's nothing like that, what you're actually saying is you're not good enough to do that. You don't have that power. The fact that they've asked it means that they, deep down, believe that you have got that power. And all they want is reassurance that you're not going to make them run around like a chicken. So rather than giving away all your power, it's all an illusion anyway, and going, no, it's nothing like that, actually, hypnotherapy is entirely different. The answer should be along the lines of, why do you want me to make you run around like a chicken? Because if you do, you've only booked an hour of your time. And that we need for the therapy. The chicken stuff, another 15 minutes, I'm going to have to charge you some more money. So you've got a choice. We can either do some more money, or we can just do the therapy things so that you leave me and you continue being a confident, happy, healthy, relaxed, non-smoker, or whatever it is.
I said this with someone the other day, you know, because you said this at the work.
Yeah.
And I had she's only young girl, and she came in for an initial consultation with her boyfriend, and it came up, and I said exactly, you know, oh, I'll have to charge you more if you want that. And they get this and that, this and that. It's good though, it worked. You know,
Yeah, because
you don't
we don't have to do it, that's the point, so you don't have to pay me anymore. It's just we've only got time to do the therapy. So what you're saying in a deciphered way is, you're perfectly fine, I'm not going to make you run around like a chicken. But you said it in a manner that implies that you could have them run around like a chicken if you pay more. They will not pay more.
Does that involve celery as well then?
You can if you want. So it's reassured them, but it's left in their head that you've got that power. Because whatever, hypnotherapists go stage hypnotists, they put people off from going to see therapists. Bullshit. Slight rant, I apologise, but there is some educational value and relevance to this. If you look throughout history, and in terms of the history of hypnosis, probably the most entertaining book on it, it's educationally correct, the facts are correct, let me tell you that, I know that, because I've read the dry as fucking dust books, so I know that the information is right. But this is presented in such a tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic manner that will make you laugh out loud, sometimes with laughter, sometimes with you can't say that. It's like the author notes that if we look at old pictures of hypnotists, both therapy and stage, it seemed to be the bigger your moustache, the better you were. There's all manner of strange conclusions it comes to in here. But it's called Overpowered, The Science and Showbiz of Hypnosis by Christopher Green. It's published by the British Library. $14.99. If you want to know your background history of the industry, I recommend this book without a shadow of a doubt. And it's got lots of nice pictures in it as well. A gift.
But you're saying.
The conclusion that you will come to is this. Without stage hypnotists, and arguably, Mesmer was a street hypnotist. He latched upon the fact that, yeah, but arguably he was a street hypnotist, entertaining people on the street, hence the purple flowing road, showbiz theatrics. And you look at it, isn't it a strange coincidence that, I'm not going to bore you for hours, so let's just look at some of the main forerunners here. The late Ormond McGill, held up as being a major name in the hypnotherapy field. Ormond was a magician and stage hypnotist. The majority of his money came from that. He realised people were gullible enough to pay him lots and lots of money to go on different therapy courses after different therapy courses. So he kept manufacturing bullshit. And he as good as admitted that to me at a Supreme Magic convention years ago. Gil Boyd is held up, author of Transforming Therapy, the Westwood Institute of Clinical Hypnosis. He's no longer with us. But he was a stage hypnotist who realised there was money to be made in the placebo effect and taking lots of money off people for therapy course after therapy course by creating bullshit. Tom Silver's still alive with us in America. His major field, he does the EEG, brain pattern wave bullshit. Can't even bother using the word in that. He's a stage hypnotist, he's a showman. Dave Allman, The Green Book, hypnotherapy. Allman was a stage hypnotist in music hall times and a radio presenter. He knew bullshit from a mile off. Made a fortune from it. And in the Green Book, there's only one thing in that Green Book worthwhile. There's one sentence. He's managed to drag out one sentence into a fucking book that's become a Bible to brainwash hypnotherapists. One fucking sentence. And I'll teach you in a moment what that one sentence is, so you don't have to bother reading the entire Green Book. Yeah, he was a stage hypnotist. Paul McKenna, need I say more? Richard Bandler was a stage hypnotist before he was doing NLP. Arguably, he's still a stage hypnotist. He puts on a performance. You look at the people who are the key players, and they, throughout history, they've been stage hypnotists. And hence, I say categorically that without stage hypnotists, there would be no hypnotherapy industry. Fact. And that the general public's first connection with hypnosis, generally speaking, is seeing a black and white film or a colour film, or reading a novel, or seeing something on a morning chat show, or seeing a stage hypnosis show. There's always an element of theatrics about it. And even the therapists who consistently end up on television shows are the ones who add an element of theatrics to them. I'm not going to mention names because they don't deserve the oxygen of publicity. But there are some people who have been previous clients of a public relations firm called KMA Public Relations, which none of my clients at the time knew, stands for Kiss My Ass. And the logo, actually, the K, the M and the A, if you look closely, was someone kissing someone's ass. But if you were to type in KMA Public Relations, television life coaches, then I wouldn't be in breach of any confidentiality agreements, would I? If all over Google there were still copies of press releases, and it revealed to you which very famous television life coaches I helped to get to where they are. I said that partly to brag, obviously. Why miss out on the opportunity? And also because when you start to realise whose careers I am behind, as much as I can't talk about a lot of them because of confidentiality agreements, Google has a nasty habit of coming up with searches that have got nothing to do with me, so I'm not in breach of confidentiality agreements, especially if you search public relations, and there are certain people's names. Let's just say the majority of stage hypnotists, hypnotherapists and life coaches who are on television shows regularly around the world today, I either originally taught or they didn't get successful until I taught them. And that sounds really fucking egotistical. And it is, but it's also true. But the reason I'm telling you is if you do those Google searches, and you will then see this evidence, and I will not